is it possible that whatever is visiting us from outside of our own solar system isn't something that derives from a chimp, but instead derives from something else? Like, let's say, for example, on this planet, instead of chimps developing into to these humans that were going to eventually innovate the world and change it and create new technologies that would, advance our civilization, is it possible that instead of a chimp doing that, it'd be like, I don't know, a dolphin? What if this thing that is gray because this thing was once, I don't know, like a red snapper, and then it turned into that?
But yeah, look,
looks like they hit Planet Fitness. They don't look too fit, but they look like they, they go to Planet Fitness. They hit the machines a little bit.
They know what they're there for.
Eat kale salad.
They know what they're there for.
They look vegan, honestly.
They eat acai bowls.
Eat.
Sound like Mr. Krabs. You sound like Mr. Krabs.
All right, man.
That's a robot, though. It's no alien.
The next episode, number 19, is dedicated to talking about conspiracy theories. By the way, Luis Tellez, welcome back, bro.
What's up, man? It's been a while.
It's been a while. You haven't been in front of the camera for a while. How do you feel about that, man?
It's all right, man. We're back now. I've been a little busy, but finally some time again.
Yeah, man. The fans have been asking for it. They've been telling me, where's Tellez at? Why haven't you brought him back on? Etc. Well, people, now you have him back on. So today I wanted to talk about, I wanted to open up with the Bob Lazar story, which is, a lot of people don't know, but that guy is actually the reason why this whole Area 51, Area 51, yeah, that whole thing got popular. Because the guy that set up the Facebook group, he had done that before, but nothing happened. And it wasn't only till he had done this again with the right combination of the Joe Rogan podcast.
He even says that it inspired him, like, to make the event.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it was after watching it that he decided to do that shit.
And the thing is that up until that point, I had been, just like everybody else, being kind of agnostic to this whole thing. Like, do aliens exist? Are UFOs real? Like, are flying saucers an actual thing? I had been like, I don't know, I had been just so in the middle, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I had been like, just whatever. If they're real, then they're real. But I'm not sure if they are. Can't tell you for sure.
Like,
but
you had no argument.
I had no argument, no fucking
opinion, I guess.
yeah, no standing point, no firm ground on my opinions. But now I can safely say that I do believe in aliens and the existence of UFOs.
Yeah, man.
It wasn't only till that Bob Lazar story came out on the Joe Rogan podcast, because like I've said before, I could believe in anything that you convince me of, and that guy did a good job in convincing me that aliens are real, or at least the technology that they created is real, as in flying saucers.
I mean it's crazy when you think about it, like the fact that the government said they're willing to attack like anyone who tries to like break in.
Yeah.
Like if they're really trying to attack like common people, they can easily turn like 500,000 of people into dust like in fucking minutes,
That's true.
And the fact that they're so willing to do that, like what, what are they hiding?
Well, let me talk about the I had to actually write this down because it's quite a lot of stuff. So Bob Lazar is an American scientist who claimed to have worked on reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology at a site called S4 near Area 51, called the Groom Lake Operation. He claimed that there was a stabilized version of element 115, which at the time
before it was
publicly
announced
on the periodic table.
Yeah.
Well, let me just give my own talk about this, because
talking about that, it's crazy. Like, just one thing. They didn't even acknowledge that Area 51 existed until like 2013. Publicly, yeah. They never announced that it existed. They denied it. Yeah, like, they just denied it until 2013. Think about it. It's only 6 years ago. And how long have these theories been going on? It's for ages, man.
So this scientist, the reason why I believe his story and why it's a lot different from like other stories that have surfaced about aliens or UFOs is because he really doesn't have a reason to lie. Like, he's an actual scientist. a guy that has a job already, who's making a sustainable source of income. So he's not doing it for money. He's not doing it for attention. He's a pretty shy person. If you really like, if you look at his interviews closely, he's a pretty shy person. You know what I'm saying? Even on the Joe Rogan podcast, he stuttered at times. He was afraid. He didn't know. He doesn't like being in the light. But the thing is that
like to talk.
when he answered the question, like, why did you come out then? Like, why if you're such a shy guy? And
in case anything happens.
No. He said that he believed that the moment he came out, that other people were gonna come out with their stories as well. But that's not what happened.
Not only that, but think about it. Like, if you say something, or if you're talking to people, and it doesn't become well known, if anything were to happen to you, you kind of just disappear, you know. Yeah. But if you tell people, then people are gonna realize, like, okay, so he started saying all this stuff about what's really going on, and he disappears. You know, it's not a coincidence. Obviously, there's someone that doesn't want him talking.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a safety measurement too. He talked about it in the podcast.
Yeah, the thing about this story is, like, they say, oh, this how is, if people have worked on this and people worked at this site in Area 51, how come this isn't a secret that's easily let out? But the thing is that it's a secret that's well kept, because what kind of person would get believed by a story like this, you know? If you really saw aliens and you saw the technology that they made, like, if let's say you were Bob Lazar and you were at Site S4 working on this UFO, and you came out with your story just like he did, how many people would believe you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And he talked about it too. He's like, well, it was more Joe Rogan than anything, but he agreed with it. It's like they'll give you factual pieces of evidence, stories, and stuff like that, just so it's believable enough to, like, for you to be like, okay, I'll tell someone. But they throw in, like, random facts specific to, like, certain people, you know, like how he was talking about that he was reading a briefing about, like, a star.
Yeah, a star system.
Yeah, a star system that it wasn't acknowledged.
I forgot what it's called. Yeah.
It's a hard ass name. I'm not even gonna try. But, like, yeah, like something like that. It's specific to a certain person. That way they can track down the information. Like, you know, like, if obviously he mentioned that star system, they'll know, like, okay, you know, like, we gave him that briefing that included that information that's not real. Yeah. Like, they can call that out, you know, like, pinpoint it.
I think it's important to tell his story first, so people kind of are on the same boat with us. So this guy, Bob Lazar, he was a scientist back, I think, in the 1980s, which was when this went down, right? He was a scientist.
Los Alamos.
Yeah, he was
working in Los Alamos.
He was working in Los Alamos, and then the federal government contacted him. Or was it the government?
It was because he was referenced because he submitted a resume to the father of the hydrogen bomb?
Yeah, the father of the hydrogen bomb.
What's his name?
I forgot. But this guy,
but he met him at a conference when he was working at Los Alamos still.
The fucking guy that created the H bomb.
Yeah, but he only he met him because Bob Lazar, he made he just put, like, a jet engine in a Honda.
Yeah,
he got famous for it.
Yeah, he got famous for it. It was all over the papers.
And the guy, the father of hydrogen bomb, he saw it when he was there at a meeting where he worked. And I guess they met up, and he's talking about years later, he submitted his resume to him, and he sent him, like, a reference for someone. Yeah. And then that's how he kind of got into that job. They
sent him a letter. They said, would you like to apply to this job position? And then he said, yeah. And then they brought him out to, like, this place to do this interview. It was, like, in this company, like a warehouse. They did the interview, and then they told him, all right, we'll contact you later. And then they did. And then the way it worked was he'd show up to the Nevada airport, right? And then they'd fly him out to a secret base, which was at that time, and it wasn't known to a lot of people. It was Area 51 or S4, which is 15 miles south of Area 51, because Area 51 itself is a compound, so it's kind of spread out. There's different areas for different types of research and facilities for all kinds of things, right? Mm-hmm. S4 would be the place where they would work on the extraterrestrial technology that Bob Lazar was talking about.
Propulsion.
Yeah. So once he got there, like he said, the first couple of days, or I think the first day, was just like paperwork and stuff, filling out information about himself. And then after a screening process, he got a briefing that told him what he's going to be working on. And one of the things that was mentioned was this flying saucer, which he saw himself later on. And in the briefings, it said that this thing came from this star system. I forgot where. You could only see it in the southern hemisphere. I think he mentioned that, right? that you could only see it in the southern hemisphere under a very clear night sky. So it's very far away. I think 36 light years away, and it's a binary star system. So there's two stars, and the place that this exactly came from, the UFO that he was working on, came from the third star on that star system. I mean, the third planet from that star system.
Well, I think they were talking about how, regardless, planet is like a star. It's just energy.
So, like, this guy, Bob Lazar, was saying that there may be some disinformation within the briefings themselves, so that they aren't able to trace back, like, actual pieces of evidence from where this thing really came from, you know? So, like, let's say he did come out with a story like he did, he wouldn't be able to tell, like, the truth. But according to him, everything else that was on that briefing, everything that was in the envelopes that would give him information on what he was working on was correct. So he does believe that came from that star system. But how they were able to put that story together, he doesn't know. Like, how they were able to figure that out, he doesn't know. And then so he goes through the hangar doors and he sees the UFO that he's working on, right? And it's a plate with half a basketball on top, which would be like the typical UFO you see, right? And his first reaction, or his first response to it, was like, oh, this is what everyone's been looking at. Like, this is what people have been reporting in the skies. It's this UFO thing. And it had the American flag sticker on it. So it was like, oh, dude, it's just a complicated advanced fighter jet.
Yeah.
But he'd later find out that it wasn't when he read the briefings and all that. So he got close to the thing, and his partner was Barry, right? Barry told him, oh, go ahead, try and touch it. And then he put his hand close to it, but it was like trying to put two magnets together. He said that there was this like force that repelled his hand. Like, he wasn't able to touch it, so there was this kind of like force field around it. And he'd later find out that the reason why that's that way is because the UFO is able to produce its own gravitational field, which he later called anti-gravity. And that's when he really thought to himself, well, we don't have the technology, we don't have anything close to this kind of stuff, so it does have to come from other planet, you know what I mean? So his job was particularly to work on the propulsion and how this device was able to produce. So he worked on the propulsion. So he was trying to reverse engineer this whole thing and figure out how this thing maneuvered in the sky or in the universe or in space, whatever. And according to him, there was these what he called like 3 cylindrical devices below, in the lower floors of the UFO, the lower floor of the UFO, which would be themselves what produced the gravity. So wherever it pointed, it created distortion in space-time and moved the craft further down or further up. It's not like how we can conceive of a plane or a jet moving about. It's not the way we conceive of it to be. Like, you know, usually we burn something.
Usually propulsion only works in one direction.
Exactly. So we
But this created its own like sort of propulsion, like say
in any direction in space.
It was kind of like it's like you said, like when you try to touch it, it does the same thing with like the atmosphere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so if it needs to go up, just shoots up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's kind of like the anti-gravity shit. So.
Yeah. So it's like a regular plane or jet would burn something out through the back and then move forward. That's how propulsion works, right? Or like a rocket ship, it shoots something through the back and then goes up. Yeah. But this thing doesn't work that way. Direction. Yeah, it moves any way it wants, and because it's able to produce its own gravity, it's able to basically stay stationary while it's moving about. So it doesn't matter how fast it's going. Whatever's inside is going to stay within its own gravitational field. So it could move thousands of miles an hour and it wouldn't get destroyed or it wouldn't harm the people within the craft. And when I heard him saying that on the Joe Rogan podcast, I was thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense about all the reportings and all the sightings that people have been talking about. Like, this thing moves faster than anything we've ever created. Yeah. And how is that possible? Like, how is that thing not getting like affected or harmed? Or how are the people inside? Caught, you know? Yeah, like when there was this guy that recently saw one. He was he's a fighter pilot, and he saw one in his field of vision, and that thing was moving at a way faster rate than he was, and moving about in a weird motion. So the way Joe Rogan described it was, it's like moving about a laser pointer. It kind of, you could just move it around. It doesn't have any respect to the Newtonian physics, or the Newtonian physics, the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this shit, when I heard all that, I'm like, now it makes sense. Like, you see all the UFO videos, the ones that you kind of are convinced about, and you can't really describe it. Like, how is that moving like that? And now it makes sense because it has its own gravity, you know?
And it creates his own, like, force.
Yeah.
Basically.
Another thing that got me, like, kind of fucked up was when he said that when he went inside the craft, the first thing he noticed was that there was no right angles. Like, traditionally there's supposed to be right angles inside of a building or inside of a craft or something like that, you know? But this thing, he said that two sides always met, and I don't know how he described it. That's the problem. Like, I just don't get it.
I know people get that image. Like, just imagine how plain that looks.
Everything's just
like
smoothed out.
Yeah.
You know?
Cylindrical, I guess.
I don't know. Like, how would you even describe that? We don't have anything like that. And then he said that there was seats in there, but that the seats were super small.
Yeah, and he said they were lined up like one in front and then two to the side.
Yeah.
Slightly behind, I think that's what he said. And he said that he couldn't even stand up straight in there.
That's weird, man.
Some small people.
Dude, I think I want to take off my hat.
I think we're safe for now.
I think we're safe.
For some of those people that don't know, these are made out of the finest metals in the galaxy.
Just put these on the side or something.
Some say they're stronger than vibranium.
Vibranium? The fuck is vibranium?
The shit that Captain America's shield is made out of.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then I also believe Wolverine's claws, right?
I don't know, dude.
I might be wrong, but...
Oh, no, that's...
Don't hate me if I am.
All right. Back to the whole thing, man. The thing that gets me is, like... Hold on. The thing that gets me is that this guy, Bob Lazar, he was also saying that that there was no... You couldn't see outside the craft.
Oh, yeah. And then it could go, like, basically... No, he said in an instant, you can see everything and they couldn't see inside. Like, remember he was saying he could see outside?
Yeah.
Like, it was completely clear, like, the whole ship, like, under where he was standing.
Oh, yeah. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, shit like that, it's kind of hard to believe because you just see it in movies, you know?
Yeah,
but
like,
for someone who actually say they saw that, like, it's crazy. It makes you think, like, when you were younger, you didn't question if it was possible or not, you know? Like, you were like, maybe that exists.
Well, here's the thing. Like, he said a couple things that a lot of people criticized back then that later came out to be true. Like, the existence of element 115. Element 115, according to him, was what they used to fuel this ship, this starship or whatever it was. So he came out. He said there's this thing that is called element 115. It's a very heavy metal, and they use it to propel this thing in any direction it wants to go. But people said, how is this even true? Like, it hasn't been identified. It's not in the periodic table, but years later it came out to be true. And the thing is that Earth has very, very small trace amounts of it, that it's hard to even get that or obtain that mineral.
It's not really produced naturally.
It's not. And it's not stabilized. He said it's not a stabilized isotope.
Yeah, he said they were only proficient in getting like that propulsion system to work.
Yeah.
Like, so they couldn't really figure it out either. Like.
Yeah. And then for a long time, people didn't believe he worked there because there was no records of him working at the site. But then they found like a phone book or something with his name on it. And then it was like, so then someone did intentionally try to hide all evidence suggesting that he worked at Los Alamos or something like that.
But it was until after he had first talked about his experience, no? Like, after that interview that he called in, like, on the, what was it, like, live TV?
Man, I don't know.
It was until after that, like, they started deleting his information, basically.
Damn. And then they didn't allow him to get a job for a long time, and the people around him too, because he came out with his story, and yeah, people just didn't believe this man.
It's crazy.
And here's the thing, like, yesterday I was in that same stretch of desert that connects into Area 51, which would be on the 15 freeway going up to Las Vegas. I was out there in the high desert, and I wanted to make sure that I did go out there before this filming, because I wanted to kind of get into the vibe of, like, what was this guy seeing, like what was his environment like, you know? And it's like when you're out there,
it's like so much nothing.
There's so much nothing. It's so dark, and when you look up, it's a whole field of stars, you know? And it's almost impossible to think that there isn't anything out there.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to, like, just imagining nothing out there. Like I was saying earlier, there's no reason for anything or anyone to be out there.
What do you mean?
You know, like, it's just empty. Like, if you ever go to the desert or you ever travel, like towards Vegas, there's a whole bunch of stretches where it's, like, nothing, just mountain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, like, what's the purpose of that? Because everything is populated, but there's certain areas that they'll leave uninhabited.
I mean, you can't populate everywhere, though.
But there's like long stretches.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just dirt, mountain.
It's very easy to, like, set up a base out there and test fucking UFOs if you really wanted to, you know? That whole area is barren. There's nothing out there. It's just desert.
Exactly.
The only thing out there that might exist as in life would be, like, natural wildlife, like coyotes, mountain lions, cacti, stuff like that. But human beings are not out there. Mm-mm. And it's like, when I was driving last night out there, it was like 1 a.m. I just parked my car in the middle of the desert, and I was like, I'm gonna look up outside, you know, I'm gonna see for myself. Because out here in LA, in the city, you can't see anything. And it's like when you're out there, it's like someone turned the lights on.
Yeah.
Someone turns the lights on at
and for some reason the sky looks a little bit more blue out there. I'm not sure if that's just me. Like, it looks like actually like bluish, like really dark purple, like violet.
It's crazy, man. So it's almost impossible for me to believe that there isn't another trace of life out there, you know, because every star is literally a sun. It could be home to life, civilizations, advanced civilizations. And there's never been reason to believe that they don't exist, because if you look at, like, the records of human history, ancient civilizations have always reported seeing odd things in the sky, or, like, seeing gods descend from the heavens. And it's like, let's take, for example, the pyramids, right?
Egyptians.
The modern theory suggests that ancient Egyptians created these things out of hammer and chisel, and then rolled these giant stones, these giant granite stones, over to the site, because wherever they were cutting down that stone, it isn't produced naturally in that area where they put the pyramids. Was it Giza? The pyramids of Giza, right? Mm-hmm. So they had to cut the granite stones with hammer and chisel miles away, and then roll them over to where the site is at.
And don't forget, these were carried by slaves that weren't even fed well. Like, you really think they're gonna make it?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, you know, it's just,
I mean,
the more you think about shit, like, the more you realize, like, damn, there's a lot of flaws in these stories. Like, think about it.
It wasn't until I started working this summer in construction with my uncle that I realized the people that believe that the stones that were gathered
never worked
in Egypt, have no idea of what they're talking about. I've used a hammer and chisel to break down cement. It barely does a scratch, man, and it's cement. It's an easy.
Even like wood, you try to break wood down with the hammer, like.
Just imagine granite or limestone. Like, just imagine, heavy, dude, a whole big tons, like these megalithic stones, and then they carry them over with these fucking logs, supposedly.
And these people, like, they should get an idea of how big these things were. Like, you standing, you're probably still shorter than just one block of these.
Oh, dude, definitely, man. Definitely. You're way shorter than one of those blocks of stone. So it's like...
just a reference.
And they supposedly broke them down with hammer and chisel, these slaves. First of all, they were slaves. It's like, the people that worked on this had to have some kind of knowledge of construction work, at least. At the very least. I mean, they can't be slaves. You know, you can't just force them to cut down stone and then You know, how are you going to teach a slave? Yeah. It's got to be someone that has practiced artisanship or something like that, you know? Okay, so the thing about the pyramids is that a lot of people get upset when conspiracy theorists come at them when they say, oh, the it's possible that the pyramids were built by aliens, you know? It's possible. And then the people that work in archaeology or in the field, they get offended by these comments. They're like, you're taking away a lot from the ancient Egyptians, you know?
Yeah.
You're taking away from all their hard work and labor, and then because you're just saying that it's possible that aliens could have helped them. Like, what if they really did? But the thing is, if you look at the historical records and you look at the hieroglyphs that are within the pyramids that detail how the pyramids were built, the Egyptians themselves said that if it wasn't for the help of the gods, they would not be able to do this themselves.
They were always super thankful to the gods.
The gods supposedly brought them the technology and the knowledge to create the pyramids of Giza.
And it's crazy because these like reportings or like encounters with these gods were like pretty common, you know, and pretty often.
Yeah.
Because certain, not even just like Egyptians, but certain like cultures and ancient, you know, and ancient cultures, they talked about pleasing the gods because they were coming. Like, it's like they knew when they were gonna get visited, you know?
Think so?
I don't know, man. I mean, the way they talked about these things, you know, and
well, here's the thing about like them talking about gods and like, oh, Ra, the god of the sun, the god of this, the god of that. So the thing about that is, just imagine an ancient civilization looking at a UFO landing, and then these entities coming out of these UFOs or spaceships or these star travelers. Just how would you describe something like that in a time where the vocabulary for that kind of stuff hasn't existed yet? You know what I'm saying? Like, alien, the word starship, the word spaceship, that doesn't exist 40,000 years ago or whenever the pyramids were built. I think in the year 4000 BC or something, right?
BC, yeah.
Sorry, I was way off. So like 4000 BC, something like that. 4000 BC, you don't have the vocabulary to say, oh, that's an alien or that's a starship or that's something that's flying. So with the available lexicon, with the available vocabulary, they were able to depict what they saw, which would be a god, right? A god coming from the heavens, which would be the skies, because they don't know what space is exactly. They haven't been out there. They haven't done that research. So they say, okay, well, what's up there? That's called the heavens. When you look up, they probably don't even say sky. They say the heavens. Yeah. So something came from the heavens that emitted a light source, which would be Ra, the sun god. How do you describe an artificial light in 4000 BC if there's no electricity back then?
It's like someone fucking holding a flashlight back then. Like,
exactly. It's like, oh, shit.
It's going to look like a power, you know, like a superpower.
Yeah, so let's say, for example, the UFO that Bob Lazar was talking about, because he said that thing emitted light, right? Emitted this, I forgot, like blue light or whatever.
Yeah, like a beam kind of.
So let's say, for example, that whatever UFO landed back in the day had this light, not a blue light necessarily, but just a light, some type of light that was coming down from the sky. As a person, 4,000 or what would be 6,000 years ago, person 6,000 years ago would identify it would be, okay, so this thing that comes from the heavens and that's emitting light. So it has the power literally of the sun. The only other thing that at the time produces that thing, that light.
An unnatural light.
An unnatural light source. So, because back then you don't have light bulbs. Back then you don't have, LEDs. You don't have any of that stuff.
All they had was candles, torches.
Yeah, like fire, right? So.
But it wasn't like I don't think they understand. I don't think they understood what light was. You know?
Yeah, like if it was a controlled light source, like a light bulb, they'd be like, okay, well that's not fire. The only other thing that can make that is the sun. And if it was a bright light that matched or was close to that kind of luminescence, then they'd be like, well, whatever this thing is, it's most likely...
It's powerful.
It's most likely the god of the sun, because that's the only other thing that could make that kind of light. You know? So they'd be like, okay, so now they're gonna write it down. This thing, the sun god comes down from the heavens and gives us a technology to create the pyramids.
Information.
Yeah, or like information. So it's like, that to me proves that there might be some kind of interconnectedness between humans and some other kind of advanced civilization that came down from the fucking space or from the heavens 4,000 years or 6,000 years ago.
But do you think if they actually do come down, like aliens, you think they give us like information for us to live by? You know, like they kind of give us like guidelines or
I don't know,
like an outline kind of thing? Because if you really think about it, like the way we live, it's all extremely calculated. It goes unrecognized because you become so used to it. But your routine, what you do throughout the day, like it's calculated, man. You know, like everything had to line up perfectly in order for certain things to happen. And do you think that's just like a natural occurrence? You think, you know, like it's literally just
here's the thing
atoms and molecules that are causing that? Like that's what we're made out of. But what causes our actions? What causes, you know, events to happen?
Here's the thing, man. I used to believe that everything kind of just has chaos. Like there's no such thing as measurements. There's no such thing as anything that could just measure anything, or like there's no such thing as order, basically. Mm-hmm. I always thought that everything was that freely moved about in chaos, and that everything that we create that somewhat resembles order was man-made. Like it was entirely a human construct, right? Like streets that organize lanes into one another. If you really like don't look at the lines, or just imagine if you were colorblind, all you see is a road. But because we create this order, then there is some kind of system of lanes, right? But everything really just moves about in chaos. Like you can crash into one another if you were to go into the other lane. But now that I think about it, like time itself is not a human construct. It's something that is a natural order that we are just able to measure. A lot of people say, oh, well, time is just a construct. How do you know that time is a thing? Like, what's a minute? Like, that's something that a human created. But, like, if you look at it, like, the sun...
It's just a measurement to capture, like...
What's an actual occurrence, a natural order. Like, the Earth revolves around the sun after 365 days, right? Approximately. That's a natural order. That's something we measured with time and days and months. Same thing, like a day is 24 hours. That's something that is a natural order. It's something that we created, like to measure it.
Yeah.
But it does it naturally. It does it every 24 hours. We were just able to conceive it, you know?
Figure out how to track it.
So there is a natural order to things, but I'm not sure if aliens were what brought that. I think that the universe itself is just set up that way.
But I mean, even simpler things, like the other day I was at the beach, and you know, and then there was a sunset, whatever. And it's like, why do we find certain things appealing, you know? Why does someone look at a sunset and they say, oh, you know, well, that looks nice? Like, what is it about a sunset, you know? And even just something simple as that, like, is that just that? What? Obviously, it's just a natural occurrence, you know? It's just like the sun going down. But what specifically, you know, like, led us to say, oh, this is beautiful or whatever, you know? Whatever reaction you might have to it.
I think it's just a human instinct, man. Like looking at the end of a day. Maybe that is just a small fragment of what leads us to our survival. Like something that makes us look forward to the end of the next day to keep on moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It may be that. It may be just things like that. Small things like that. But where was I with these pyramids? Oh, yeah, the sun god, right?
Yeah.
There's similarities between different ancient cultures if you really look at it. Like pyramids in Giza are not the only place where pyramids exist. If you look at Mesoamerica, or if you look at like the southern Mexico area, you see these megalithic structures of what appear to be pyramids that look or resemble the pyramids at Giza, right? And the stories even line up a bit, because if you look at the story of one of the Aztec gods, which would be, I think it's called Quetzalcoatl.
Oh, yeah.
Quetzalcoatl or something like that. It's this giant flying serpent in the sky. So that was like their main god or something, right? Again, it's this entity that could fly and move about. And according to the Aztec text,
in a snake-like motion.
According to the text, or whatever they left behind, that thing was the mediator between the earth and the heavens. It was the god of that, between the heavens and earth. It's like, what the...
The in between, yeah.
Like, okay, why would people write bullshit back in the day? You know what I mean? Like, why would people write shit that makes no sense? Like,
when they have the claim you could have made these days is, oh, to sell a story, to make money, to profit off it. But back then, what did they have to profit? There was no media, there was no news outlets, there was nothing for them to tell, and there was no reason for them to make stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, this was literally a fucking religion.
Yeah.
It was a religion. Like, literally, you believed in the gods. You praised the gods. Human beings were sacrificed to the gods, you know? If there was...
animals.
If there was, like, a drought, or if, like, there was some kind of, like, epidemic, they'd have to sacrifice human beings or sacrifice animals to please the gods. These all-powerful beings.
Or even someone who like, committed a crime. Yeah. They would do it so that the gods wouldn't be so hard on them.
I heard that they wouldn't sacrifice the the detainees or whatever kinds of people they invaded. Like they would have to sacrifice people that were like worthy, like warriors.
Yeah.
Warriors would have to get sacrificed, like people that had higher ranking in the Aztec civilization.
Yeah, because they didn't want just a common person. Yeah, according to the gods, they wanted someone, you know,
worthy to be sacrificed. It's crazy. Like if something like that was a practice, like you have to really think about, like, why was this story so important to them? Like maybe because it's true. Like they wouldn't just create some bullshit ass story. I mean, and then the same thing could be said about the story of Jesus Christ. You know, like God giving Mary a baby without having any kind of sexual interaction, you know? The Virgin Mary became this holy figure that was like prevalent for such a long time.
But that's only in Catholicism. I don't think Christianity believes in the Virgin Mary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just Catholicism.
That's crazy.
Yeah. According to that, there's only one, like, kind of like immortal higher power.
Yeah.
And that was God, you know? It wasn't no...
It's like, how do you describe something like that? How do you describe an alien back then? You can't. Like, the vocabulary doesn't exist. How do you say spaceship?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a spaceship back then. There's no such thing as all that stuff.
Essentially, yeah, it was a god. And that's what they thought it was because they brought down information and technology that was far ahead of where we were at that time. Well,
according to them, they're like, well, I mean, they said, all right, yeah, we built the pyramids, but you got to give credits to the gods. They're the ones that gave us the information. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it is, man.
Let me see what else. Pretty sure I wrote something else down here. Oh yeah, he did lie detector tests to see if he was saying the truth, and they came out to be true. So
yeah.
Oh, so here's what's crazy about Element 115 and all that stuff. So according to Bob Lazar, the UFO that he worked on had, like I said, this anti-gravity device, right? Mm-hmm. So if you really think about, if you have the power to create anti-gravity, you basically also have the power of creating a force field.
Yeah.
And if we were able to obtain that kind of technology, we would be advanced in military warfare. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and also, if you think about it, and if you, like, if Einstein's research is correct, if you have the power to control gravity, you also have the power to control time. So aside from the fact that this may have been a starship, this may have also been some kind of time machine. And according to Bob Lazar, the thing that he was working on was found during an archaeological dig. So whatever this thing was, whatever this flying saucer thing really is, it's ancient.
Mm-hmm.
So it's old. But it's not something that we found recently, or it's not something that crash landed here recently. It's something that's been here for a very long time, and that kind of creeped me out. And what else creeped me out was that he said that they found 9 of these things, that he at one point saw all the hangar doors open and could see 9.
Yeah.
And this does sound pretty far-stretched, but like when you stop, like I said, and think about who this guy is, Bob Lazar, he has no reason to lie. Like, he's not profiting off of this. He's not doing any of that stuff to make money off of this story.
Damn.
Man, you're falling asleep, huh?
I am. It's the shades, man. You know?
It's the shades.
It's dark. It's dim. I'm ready. No, but it's crazy. Like, how much we feel that our government is not telling us, you know?
That's crazy.
It's like I was saying, like the government didn't even acknowledge fucking Area 51 publicly until 2013.
Yeah, that's crazy.
2013. That's only 6 years ago. Like, you know, it's crazy. Oh man, but not talking about like how you were talking about like ancient cultures and civilizations. Have you heard of the, what are they called?
Anunnaki.
No. They're like some stones in Georgia. Oh, the Georgia Guidestones.
No, what is that?
Okay, so it's
right, can you Google them?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna look them
up.
So
it's big like stones, and written on it are laws for a new age of reason. And this emerged in the 1980s, so it's not too old. But no one knows how it got there or who made it. And it's there's 8 languages on it. Yeah.
What?
So it's English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindu, Hebrew, Russian, and Chinese. And at the top of it, it's 4 ancient scriptures: Babylonian, Sanskrit, Greek, and Egyptian hieroglyphics.
How long have these things been around?
Since the 1980s, so it's not that old, man.
For the people that are just listening,
and this is more kind of like of a cult thing. Like there's a written on it. It's commandments for a new age, and one of them is about keeping population to 500 million or 500 billion, something like that.
What?
Yeah, so an ideal world, perfect world, like successfully functioning world, is attributed to like only 5 million people.
What?
Or 5 billion, something like that.
That's what these stones say?
Yeah, that's one of the many commandments.
They don't look that old though, man.
They're not, man.
Who made them? A cult? You said a cult?
Yeah, but no one knows. You know, it's not public.
They're not gonna do shit. They're like, you know what we should do? You know what we should do? They're all drunk, you know. You know what we should do, bro?
They're all drunk.
They're all drunk right there by the fireplace. They're like, bro, we gotta make some giant ass stones and some separate languages to tell the same story about how there should only be 5 million people because this goddamn traffic in LA is way too much.
For a hustle.
Like, yeah, I'm down.
That was in the 80s, man.
I know this guy.
They knew this traffic was coming. They tried to stop it.
But whatever, I mean, I guess.
No, but what's crazy is that you see how there's like spaces in between them and all that. So if you look at it from certain angles, on one of them you can see where the summer equinox is.
Oh yeah.
And the winter equinox. So where the sun sets and where the sun sets and rises during the winter and during the sun.
Man.
There's another one where you can look through it and you always see the North Star. And there's another one. Damn, there was something else. Like there was a hole drilled in the wall where you can see some shit. I forgot exactly what it was. I heard of these like a while ago, but I never like really looked into it. And there's not much information about them just because they're so new, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like an artifact yet. I guess it's only like what.
Doesn't look that old.
1980s, yeah, 1980s.
All right, so what was I saying about? I mean, whoever created these stones?
Shouldn't have took off your hat, man. It's that government.
Government, man.
They're erasing your memories.
Controlling my brain, bro.
Nah, man. Delete it already.
Damn, they deleted my information, huh?
You knew more than you know right now.
I know.
You know.
I was on a roll. I was like talking about these ancient civilizations. All right, but.
Nah, you really think people are gonna storm Area 51, man?
Hey, man. Here's the thing about that. It's like. It's. I feel like it's less serious than it is. Like it's not really gonna be people storming it. I feel like people are gonna camp out. You know, play some music, chill.
Like just hang out.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go, but I'm not gonna go to storm it. I'm just gonna go there to chill. It's like a fireman, a Burning Man. I mean, it's like this is like the biggest event since Woodstock, in my opinion. I mean,
it hasn't happened, so you can't say that.
That's the thing. Like, I think that if we were to have some kind of event where like the whole kind of country could just gather around and just chill. Like I know that there's Coachella and there's like all these other events that you could go to EDC, but I feel like if you had just one giant event, just one, like the main one, and everyone could just kind of just be there and get along, I think it changed the world. You know, either that or there'd be a lot of fights. There'd be a lot of police brutality and
probably
things going out of control.
Nah, man, you can't have too many different people in one place.
That's true, man.
One spot, I mean.
But it's a thought that I had at one time. I was like, maybe.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I understand. But I don't know, man. The government's gonna turn you guys into fucking dust if you try it.
You think so? No, I don't think so. I think the worst that can happen is tear gas.
I mean, they weren't like reluctant about saying that they're gonna defend the fucking base at all costs.
They're like, listen, guys, don't do it. We will do our job. That's it.
Don't do it because we will vaporize all of you guys. That's basically what they said, man.
Damn.
Jason, I don't want to have to fucking visit you in a fucking... you're gonna be in a fucking jar full of gas. You're gonna be gas.
What do you mean I'm gonna be gas?
They're gonna fucking vaporize your ass. You're gonna be in my water bottle.
Man, I'm not gonna get vaporized. Alright, listen. Back to what we were talking about. Aliens. I was about to go into something else though. I forgot. You were talking about the stones and then I lost it. Either that, like you said, the government deleted it. But these stones, man, whoever created them are some giant ass nerds, bro. They even had to figure out the solar equinox or something. Would you say
you can see like the summer equinox and so basically where the sun rises and the sun sets during the winter and during the summer.
I'm not impressed. I don't find these things cool. I wouldn't go see them either. Georgia's boring, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's random. Like, why Georgia?
All right, so do you believe in aliens, man?
I mean, it's hard not to, man. Like, if you really like break it down and think about what you are, like, what are the chances that you're the only being like yourself or similarly structured? You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing I was thinking about.
Like man, like
hold on.
Just think about what you are.
I'm not gonna lose it again, bro.
Go ahead.
Chill. All right. So here's the thing. Like, we evolved from chimps, right? Is it possible? Is it? What do you mean?
I mean, it's not clear.
I mean, it's pretty fucking clear, man.
It's not clear, man.
What about all the science that you learned in high school?
I mean,
the theory of evolution.
It doesn't say we directly come from chimps, but we share similar ancestors.
All right, but that's why. Like, so if you look at evolution,
saying we come from a monkey, it's way different than saying we have similar ancestors.
All right, look, we evolved.
We have lineage.
A chimp. A chimp slowly grew and adapted to its own environment so that it could walk on 2 feet. And then it grew. What? No,
it's not a chimp.
What do you mean no?
It's not a chimp. It's not your common. It's not your not like modern day chimp. It was a different. All right,
no, okay, that's not what I'm saying though. What I'm saying is that a chimp slowly grew it slowly adapted to be able to walk on 2 feet. It's not a chimp anymore, but that's what I'm using it as. And then it slowly turned into something else, and now it has the same fingers that we have. Because back then you have the finger that was like down here or something.
Yeah.
And over time, it adapted and it grew into this and evolved into this thing called a human, right? But is it possible that whatever is visiting us from outside of our own solar system isn't something that derives from a chimp, but instead derives from something else? A different kind of animal, you know?
Maybe where they're from, they came from something else.
Exactly. That's why they look so weird. Like when people say they've seen an alien, they're like, oh, well, they're these beings that have weird long skinny arms and then they have these giant heads and these misshapen eyes and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, well, the only accurate descriptions have been what's known as the grays.
Yeah, the grays.
The greens are just cinematic. They're not. I don't really think there's real like spottings of like greens, like tiny aliens like in movies. It's only ever been like the grays and like some people say like humanoid type things. And then the other one would be like some kind of like lizard, kind of amphibian looking shit.
Describe what a gray looks like.
A gray, it's like about, I think just shorter than like an average human, maybe like around 4 to 5 feet.
Yeah.
Gray slanted eyes, slits for like a nose and mouth. It's just like tiny.
So this is what we have, Paul. This is what we consider.
They just have small slits.
An alien. The grays, they have small slits as noses. So think about this, man. if what I'm saying is true, or like if what I'm saying is it makes kind of sense, then it's possible that whatever creature turned into an advanced form of its predecessor is most likely not a chimp. So it's not going to look like us. Like, let's say, for example, on this planet, instead of chimps developing into to these humans that were going to eventually innovate the world and change it and create new technologies that would, advance our civilization, is it possible that instead of a chimp doing that, it'd be, like, I don't know, a dolphin, which is not equally, but it's fucking an intelligent creature. A dolphin, it moves within certain patterns of the seasons in the ocean. Like, it knows when it's turning into winter, so it moves to where the water is warmer and stuff. And it could communicate with sonar. So, like, and they've also figured out that, like, certain species of whales can communicate with one another with certain different types of languages. So, like, one type of I think orca could communicate to one orca, but, like, that orca wouldn't understand because it's from a different part of the world. So, like, there's these advanced fucking fish in the sea. What if
subcultures and
what if one of these things were selected, were the lucky creature, the lucky species to develop into what would later become an advanced
it's possible
creature,
definitely.
Like, what if this thing that is gray because this thing was once, I don't know, like a red snapper, and then it turned into that. Like, it evolved into this fucking weird creature,
Yeah, the thing is that the thing that trips me out.
Low-key, I could bench more than this man, though.
Easily, man. It's definitely cutting season for him. Have you realized that they always kind of, like, have a chest?
Wait, what were we gonna say, though?
They always kind of have a chest. Like, they're always defined,
That's true.
Like, look at them. They all kind of have, like...
Hey, man, this guy's kind of jacked. Oh.
You know what I mean? Look, they always got, like, that chest and, like, those abs and, like, that flat stomach, like, nothingness.
Hey, man, but we even gave Jesus abs.
Oh, we did. And we made him white.
Oh.
But that's not for today.
That's not for today. Yeah, man, they're kind of like always...
But yeah, look.
Looks like they hit Planet Fitness. They don't look too fit, but they look like they, they go to Planet Fitness, they hit the machines a little bit.
They know what they're there for.
Eat kale salad.
They know what they're there for.
They look vegan, honestly.
They eat acai bowls.
Anyways.
But, okay, so what I'm saying is that as unique as we are, like, as individuals, humans, like, yeah, you look like a human, I look like a human, but there's so many features that make me look different from you,
Yeah.
And I feel like it might be the same thing with aliens, but the fact that when people encounter them, or if they actually have, they don't take time, or they don't have that, like, they don't have enough time to process features, small things on the alien.
Well,
so it's like, do you really think all aliens look exactly like that?
I'm pretty sure they don't.
Like, they have different features, certainly.
I'm pretty sure there's a Latino version.
Exactly. Like, is there cultures? Is there cultures, like, even within aliens and stuff like that, or do you think it's just one?
What if they're
because
culture?
what we've made them come out to be is, like, one singular, like, culture, civilization.
Yeah.
We've made them out to be just one singular thing. But just the way that we have so many differences between communities, language, and stuff, like, it's not impossible to say that they don't have the same. Unless they're, like, a superior being that...
Oh, here's another one.
That all just speak one language, or they know all languages,
Here's the thing, man. Like, some people say that whatever this thing is, what if it's most likely not even a living being? Like, what if this is some kind of artificial intelligence? Yeah. If you think about it, like, if we're going to send something across a galaxy... If we're gonna
can't age.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be something that can't age, because it can. Yeah, we're gonna send a rover. We're gonna send some kind of, like, module out there that has no living beings, because we're not gonna risk a human life. Yeah. So what if they're doing the same thing? Like, what if they're sending some kind of artificial intelligence, or some kind of robot that looks like whatever they look like, or maybe don't. I don't know.
Yeah, you can say that. Maybe they made them, like, terrestrials. That way they can walk around, they can maneuver.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because when Bob Lazar said he went into the UFO, he also mentioned that there wasn't restrooms. Like there wasn't bathrooms.
Exactly. Like, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
there was no sleeping quarters.
That's something that doesn't have to sleep. Something that doesn't require like human bodily functions.
That's crazy. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, why would they send a fucking...
They need the most efficient possible thing ever.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's not going to be something that's a living thing that could die.
Someone that got to go to the fucking
what
restroom every 10 minutes.
Yeah. Where are you going to dump that? Oh, space. But, I mean, I don't know. So, and another theory is that these things are probably... They're like, what if we haven't never even seen one of these things? Like, what if these are figments of people's imaginations? Like, it's also possible. It's also possible that these things, if aliens are real, like, why would we even be able to see them? Like, why would we even be able to acknowledge their existence if we're able to analyze other creatures without their knowledge or their ability to understand what we are? How can we assume that we will be able to detect whatever they are too? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if this is something that's operating on a separate dimension? Like, it's an entirely different kind of conversation, but it's a good one, because if you think about it, like, when we talk, or when we examine another life form, like, let's say, for example, a worm, the worm itself doesn't know that we're there. It doesn't know that we exist. It doesn't know what a human being is, because, first of all, it can't see a human. It can't smell human. The only thing, or the only body part that it has, I believe, is a mouth, right? Yeah. It can't even smell a human. But it doesn't mean that we're not real. I mean, obviously we are, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we're examining it. It's very possible that whatever this extraterrestrial life is probably doing the same thing with us. Like, we can't detect it. It's probably on some kind of other dimension.
Yeah.
We may not even have, like, the
another
tools
scale,
to detect it. Like I said, a worm doesn't have eyes. A worm doesn't have a nose.
In comparison to size, we can be, like, microscopic to these creatures.
Exactly. So, like,
and they kind of guide and shape what thing goes around us. Because imagine you're like a worm and someone gets like a whole bucket of water and just tosses it to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand, or you don't conceive that bucket.
Bro, I think you gotta get closer to the mic, though.
You don't conceive that, like, bucket of water, you know? Yeah. All you see is the water coming towards you, rushing towards you. It could be the same thing, you know?
Yeah, like I said.
Like a simulation, kind of.
It can't see us. It can't smell us. It can't visualize us the way we're able to visualize each other. So what if we are missing that other tool to detect this thing? Like, or what if there are other life forms around us that we can't detect because we simply don't have that other body part that can detect it, like eyes or like a nose, but, like, you know, something different, like a different kind of body part that would detect this thing. Just like bats have sonar and we don't, we're not able to listen to supersonic sounds. Yeah. And just like
some animals just naturally have night vision. They can see in the dark.
Exactly. Or like some animals are able to perceive different scopes of light.
And supposedly, you know how you see that dogs can see ghosts and shit like that?
Yeah.
Like, that's just an example. I mean, I'm not saying I believe it, but that's just
like but like a solid example would be like a bee being able to see ultraviolet light. We're not able to see ultraviolet light, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It obviously does, right?
It's warmth, yeah.
And with certain things and certain technologies that we can create, we can detect certain spectrums of light. Or like,
yeah, like there's animals that can, like, legit see heat.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, like snakes. Snakes can see heat.
Yeah, that's what they see, and like that's how they move towards objects.
But and what we've created is like technology that can detect heat, you know. But
it's artificial.
What if whatever this thing is operating on is on an entirely different dimension, or like on an entirely different plane? It's possible.
Could be, yeah. So, definitely.
I also wanted to talk about like Bigfoot and all that, but now I'm starting to think that we should just do different episodes on that. Like, now next time we'll talk about fucking Bigfoot. Next time we'll talk about something else.
Or we can talk about smaller ones next time, like a few of them. Like ancient civilizations and like cults and just smaller shit, you know, like Illuminati.
You know that there was like this Mayan sketch, not a sketch, but like an etch. They etched it in stone of this guy that looks like he's riding a spaceship. Like, it looks like there's propulsion coming below him and he's facing upward, like going towards space.
I'm sure.
And all around him there's like different like tools and stuff. It may be a false interpretation, but
I'm sure that there's like a lot of cultures and civilizations that have similar like images and sketches, you know?
All right, but then the question is why? Why are they drawing this? Like, what are they looking at? Like, if you're an ancient civilization, wouldn't you want to write down stuff worth writing down about. Like, I know nowadays you could write about nonfiction and stuff like that, but back then, when, you know, writing and like language and all that is relatively new, like the ability to write down in your own language, like Sanskrit, stuff like that, or hieroglyphs. Wouldn't you want to be able to write something, or wouldn't you want to write about something that's happening all around you? Like, let's say, for example, you never had the ability to write before in your life, right? And then all of a sudden you were granted that ability. What's the first things that you would start writing about? Like, the first things you'd write about is like
my experiences, what I'm seeing.
Yeah, your life. Okay, what's your name? How old are you? Your children, your family. And then after you wrote all that stuff about you, the next thing you'd move on to is writing.
Your surroundings.
You're writing about things around you. And then writing things about legends and stories that have been passed down for many years, that have been considered true for many, many years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't think that they were bullshitting all these stories back in the day. Like, these things, like that they were seeing gods and all that. They probably did see something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure they were in situations where, like, damn, no one's ever going to know because I can't write this down, you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, in their vocabulary, that word doesn't exist. You know, write something down is not a phrase used, you know, or that they comprehend. Like, they weren't able to say, oh, I should write this down. The only thing is that what's going in their head is like, oh, let me remember this so that I can tell it to someone else, so I can pass it on.
Yeah, so the image is called The Mystery of King... No. It's called King Pakal. King Pakal. Just look up, type in Google King Pakal, and you'll see this image that we're talking about. So it's this guy that looks like he's riding a spaceship. And you can see kind of like the flame back here. And then, you see it? Like, kind of like something's propulsed. Like, and then it looks like he's operating some kind of device with all these kinds of, like, different things, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the original translation to this for this drawing was King Pakal's journey to the underworld. But the lady that had translated this near the end of her career, near the end of her life, she said, I have some things I want to clear up. And one of the things this was one of the main things that she said she wanted to clear up. She said, I made a translation back then that said that this image was King Pakal's journey to the underworld. But it actually has a double definition. That word that she used, whatever it was, I don't know what it is in Mayan, but underworld has a double definition in their culture. It could either mean underworld or it could mean Milky Way. So it could be King Pakal's journey to the Milky Way. So it's like, holy shit, you know?
It's crazy, yeah.
Like, why is this not something we're talking about, bro?
I'm not sure, man. I mean, it's not... A lot of the stuff that's made mainstream, it's supposed to be, I guess, in a way, entertaining. It should be...
Oh, bro.
You should be able to relate to this stuff, you know?
Yeah, man. Let me tell you something, bro. If you ever have the chance to go out to the desert, just go out there, man. Just go out there at night.
I've been to the desert lately.
Look out there. Look at the stars.
I was actually just out there.
And this goes for anybody out there that's listening. If you guys ever go to the desert, go out there, lay on your back outside, and look up at the stars and just ask yourself, man, is there something out there?
Maybe. We'll be out there.
Well, we've hit the 1 hour mark. I think that's enough for today. So thank you guys for watching our conspiracy theory episode number 19. Make sure you guys stick around for the future episodes. If you guys like the channel, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button, put a comment in the section below if you feel like it. And again, thank you guys for watching.
Alright, guys.
Peace out.